Marcus Chun wiped the sweat from his forehead as he loaded the last crate of medical supplies onto the transport shuttle. 3 years as a supply runner for the Galactic Medical Corps had taught him that frontier colonies always needed more medicine than they ordered. The Rim worlds were dangerous places where pirates and hostile alien factions made life difficult for peaceful settlers. That's the last of it. Marcus called to his partner, a blue-skinned Zephyrian named Kex. Ready to head to Valder's Prime? Kex checked his tablet with all 4 arms. The princess will be there for the medical facility dedication ceremony. Security will be tight. We'll have to follow extra protocols. Marcus nodded. Princess Lyralii of the Andromedan Empire was known throughout the galaxy for her humanitarian work. She had personally funded dozens of medical facilities on frontier worlds, often visiting them herself despite the obvious dangers. The Andromedans were an ancient and powerful species with technology far beyond most other races. Their princess choosing to help lesser developed worlds had earned her respect across the galaxy. The flight to Valder's Prime took 6 hours through hyperspace. Marcus spent most of it reading about the new facility they were delivering supplies to. The colony had been struggling with a plague that affected their crops. Without proper medical intervention, thousands of colonists would face starvation. The princess had not only funded the research facility, but also arranged for the best xenobiologists in the galaxy to work on a cure. When they dropped out of hyperspace near Valder's Prime, Marcus saw the beautiful green and blue planet rotating slowly below them. The main colony was built near the equator with a new medical facility on the outskirts. Several other ships were in orbit, including what looked like an Andromedan royal cruiser. Its elegant design and silver hull made it stand out among the more practical human and alien vessels. Incoming transmission, Kex announced. Valder's Prime Control is directing us to landing pad 7. Marcus took the controls and guided their ship through the atmosphere. The colony was smaller than he had expected, with only a few thousand buildings spread across a valley. The medical facility was a gleaming white structure that looked almost finished. Construction crews were putting the finishing touches on the exterior walls. They landed smoothly and began unloading their cargo. The medical supplies included everything from basic antibiotics to advanced gene therapy equipment. Each crate was carefully labeled and had to be delivered to specific departments within the facility. Marcus had done this job dozens of times, but the presence of Andromedan royal guards made everything feel more formal. The guards were tall, elegant beings with pale skin and silver hair. They wore flowing robes that somehow managed to look both ceremonial and practical. Their faces showed no emotion as they watched Marcus and Kex work, but their eyes tracked every movement. Marcus had heard that Andromedans could live for thousands of years and had mental abilities that humans barely understood. The ceremony starts in 2 hours, one of the guards informed them. All deliveries must be completed before then. Marcus nodded and picked up a heavy crate of surgical equipment. The facility's interior was as impressive as its exterior. Gleaming white corridors led to laboratories filled with the most advanced medical equipment Marcus had ever seen. Human and alien doctors worked side by side, preparing for the facility's official opening. In a main laboratory, Marcus saw a group of scientists clustered around a microscope. They were studying samples of the crop plague that had been devastating the colony. One of them, an elderly human woman with gray hair, looked up as Marcus approached with supplies. "Ah, the gene sequencers," she said with relief. "We've been waiting for these. We think we're close to understanding how this plague works, but we need better equipment to confirm our theories." Marcus carefully placed the crate on a nearby table. "Any idea what's causing it?" The scientist, whose name tag read Dr. Sarah Mitchell, shook her head grimly. "It's unlike anything we've seen before. The plague targets specific genetic markers in the crops, almost like it was designed to affect this particular strain of grain. What's really strange is that it only affects the crops the colonists depend on for food. Other plants are completely unharmed." Something about that didn't sit right with Marcus. But before he could ask more questions, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Red lights flashed, and automated voices announced a security alert. Through the large windows, Marcus could see armed ships descending from orbit. They were sleek, black vessels that he didn't recognize. "Everybody down!" shouted one of the Andromedan guards as he burst into the laboratory. "We're under attack." Marcus dropped to the floor as energy blasts began hitting the building's exterior. The attacking ships were firing some kind of plasma weapons that made the entire structure shake. Dr. Mitchell crawled under a lab table, clutching her research data. "Who are they?" Marcus called to the guard. "Shadowfang pirates," the guard replied grimly. "They must be after the princess." Marcus had heard of the Shadowfang Consortium. They were one of the most dangerous pirate organizations in the galaxy, known for taking high-value hostages and selling them to the highest bidder. An Andromedan princess would be worth a fortune in ransom money. More explosions rocked the building. Through the chaos, Marcus could hear the whine of energy weapons and shouted orders in several different languages. The Shadowfang pirates were landing troops around the facility, trying to breach the perimeter defenses. "Where is the princess?" Marcus asked. The guard pointed toward the main auditorium. The ceremony was about to begin. "She's with the colony leaders and other dignitaries." Marcus made a decision that would change his life forever. While everyone else was taking cover, he stood up and ran toward the auditorium. He wasn't a soldier or a guard, just a simple supply runner, but he couldn't stand by while innocent people were in danger. The corridors were filled with smoke and debris. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows on the walls as Marcus made his way through the facility. He could hear the sounds of battle getting closer. Plasma bolts scorched the air near his head as he dove around a corner. The auditorium doors were sealed, but Marcus could hear voices inside. Someone was pounding on the doors from within, trying to get out. Through a small window, he could see dozens of people huddled together in fear. Colony leaders, medical staff, and dignitaries all pressed together in the center of the room. Near the front of the group, Marcus spotted Princess Lyralii. She was taller than most of the humans around her, with the characteristic pale skin and silver hair of her people. But unlike the stoic guards Marcus had seen, her face showed genuine concern for the frightened colonists around her. A massive explosion shook the building, and part of the auditorium's ceiling collapsed. Debris rained down on the people inside, and Marcus could see that the structural damage was getting worse. The building wouldn't hold much longer under this kind of assault. Marcus found an emergency manual override for the doors and managed to get them open. People began streaming out, led by several of the princess's guards. But as they evacuated, Marcus noticed that a section of the ceiling was about to collapse directly over where Princess Lyralii was helping an injured colonist. Time seemed to slow down as Marcus saw the massive chunk of metal and concrete begin to fall. The princess was completely focused on the injured person and didn't see the danger above her. Her guard were busy evacuating other people and wouldn't reach her in time. Without thinking about his own safety, Marcus sprinted across the auditorium and threw himself at the princess, knocking her out of the way just as the ceiling section crashed down. The impact sent both of them tumbling to the ground, but they were clear of the falling debris. For a moment, Princess Lyralii stared at Marcus in amazement. Her large, violet eyes seemed to look right through him, and he felt a strange tingling sensation in his mind. Then, her expression changed to one of gratitude. "You saved my life," she said softly. Her voice had a musical quality that Marcus had never heard before. Before Marcus could respond, more of the ceiling began to collapse. He grabbed the princess's hand and pulled her toward the exit, shouting for everyone to get out of the building. They ran together through the smoke-filled corridors, dodging falling debris and energy blasts from the attacking pirates. Outside the facility, the battle was in full swing. Andromedan guards in their flowing robes fought against black-armored Shadowfang pirates. Energy weapons lit up the sky as ships dueled overhead. The colony's defense forces had joined the fight, but they were clearly outmatched. Marcus and the princess took cover behind an overturned transport vehicle. Around them, civilians ran for safety while soldiers continued the battle. The princess pulled out a communication device and spoke rapidly in the melodious Andromedan language. "I'm calling for reinforcements," she explained to Marcus. "But it will take time for our ships to arrive." A group of Shadowfang pirates spotted them and began advancing with raised weapons. Their leader, a scarred alien with multiple arms and glowing red eyes, pointed directly at the princess. "There she is. Take her alive," the pirate commander shouted. Marcus positioned himself between the princess and the approaching pirates. He didn't have any weapons, just his bare hands and determination. It seemed hopeless, but he couldn't let them take her without a fight. The lead pirate raised an energy rifle and aimed it at Marcus. "Move aside, human, or die with her." "No chance," Marcus replied, standing his ground. What happened next surprised everyone. Princess Lyralii stepped up beside Marcus and raised her hands. A shimmer of energy surrounded both of them, like a translucent shield. When the pirates fired their weapons, the energy bolts bounced harmlessly off the barrier. "Andromedan battle shields," the princess explained, sweat beading on her forehead from the effort. "But I can't maintain this for long." The pirates kept firing, their weapons creating brilliant flashes against the energy shield. Other colonists had seen what was happening and were running to help. Dr. Mitchell and several other medical staff grabbed whatever they could use as weapons and joined the defense. But the shield was weakening. Each impact made it flicker and fade a little more. The princess was clearly straining to maintain it, her breathing becoming labored. The pirates seemed to realize this and intensified their attack. Just as the shield was about to fail completely, a new sound filled the air. The deep roar of military-grade engines announced the arrival of Andromedan reinforcements. 3 silver warships dropped out of hyperspace and began engaging the pirate fleet in orbit. On the ground, additional Andromedan troops materialized in flashes of light. Marcus had heard about their teleportation technology, but had never seen it used. Dozens of elite guards appeared around the facility and immediately began pushing back the pirates. The Shadowfang forces found themselves caught between the reinforcements and the defenders. Their commander cursed in a language Marcus didn't recognize and ordered a retreat. The pirates fought a running battle back to their ships, taking heavy casualties. As the battle wound down, Princess Lyralii collapsed from exhaustion. Using the energy shield for so long had drained her considerably. Marcus caught her as she fell, supporting her weight while the last of the fighting moved away from their position. "Are you all right?" Marcus asked, genuinely concerned. The princess looked up at him with those remarkable violet eyes. "You stood between me and certain death, even though you had no way to protect yourself." "Why?" Marcus thought about it for a moment. "It was the right thing to do. You've helped so many people across the galaxy. Saving your life seemed like the least I could do." Something in the princess's expression changed. She placed her hand on Marcus's forehead, and he felt that strange tingling sensation again, much stronger this time. It was as if she was looking into his thoughts and memories, understanding something about him that even he didn't fully comprehend. "Remarkable," she whispered. "In all my years, I have never encountered a mind quite like yours." Before Marcus could ask what she meant, the princess fell unconscious. The strain of maintaining the energy shield and whatever mental ability she had just used had overwhelmed her. Marcus gently picked her up and carried her toward the approaching Andromedan medical team. The leader of the royal guards, a tall figure whose robes seemed to flow like liquid metal, approached Marcus with an unreadable expression. "You are the human who saved Princess Lyralii," the guard said. "It wasn't a question. I just did what anyone would have done," Marcus replied, still holding the unconscious princess. The guard's eyes seemed to bore into Marcus's soul. "No, human. What you did was extraordinary. The princess used her telepathic abilities to read your intentions. In that moment of supreme danger, your only thought was to protect her, even at the cost of your own life. Such selflessness is rare in the galaxy. Medical personnel took the princess from Marcus and began treating her on a portable examination table. They worked with incredible efficiency, using devices that seemed to scan her entire body and monitor her vital signs. After several minutes, the lead medic nodded to the guard. "She will recover fully," the medic reported. "The neural strain was significant, but her mind is strong. She should regain consciousness within a few hours." The guard turned back to Marcus. "What is your name, human?" "Marcus Chun. I work for the Galactic Medical Corps, delivering supplies to frontier worlds." "Marcus Chun," the guard repeated, as if memorizing it. "The princess will want to speak with you when she awakens. You have earned a debt of gratitude from the Andromedan Empire that will not soon be forgotten." As the emergency teams worked to secure the area and treat the injured, Marcus found himself wondering what would happen next. He had saved the life of one of the most important people in the galaxy, but he was still just a supply runner from Earth. Surely the princess would thank him and he would go back to his normal life. But deep down, Marcus sensed that everything had changed. The way the princess had looked at him, the strange sensation when she touched his mind, the guard's talk of debts and gratitude, it all suggested that his simple life was about to become much more complicated. Dr. Mitchell approached him as the medical teams finished their work. "That was incredibly brave," she said, "but also incredibly stupid. You could have been killed." Marcus shrugged. "Sometimes doing the right thing means taking risks." "Well, your risk saved all of us," Dr. Mitchell continued. "If the pirates had captured the princess, they would have killed everyone else as witnesses. The entire colony owes you their lives." As if to emphasize her point, several colonists approached Marcus to thank him personally. Men and women who had been complete strangers an hour ago now looked at him with genuine gratitude and respect. Children who had been evacuated during the battle pointed at him and whispered to their parents. The Andromedan guards loaded the princess onto their ship for transport to better medical facilities. Before they left, the guard leader approached Marcus one final time. "The princess left instructions for you," the guard said, handing Marcus a small, crystalline device. "When she awakens, this will allow her to contact you directly. She wishes to speak with you as soon as possible." Marcus took the device, which felt warm to the touch, and seemed to pulse with internal light. "What does she want to talk about?" The guard's expression remained unreadable. "That is not for me to say. But I will tell you this. The princess's telepathic abilities allow her to see things about people that they do not see about themselves. Whatever she discovered in your mind has made a significant impression on her." With that cryptic statement, the guard boarded the royal ship. Marcus watched as it lifted off and disappeared into hyperspace, taking Princess Lyralii away from Valdres Prime. The crystal device in his hand continued to pulse gently, as if it had a life of its own. As the immediate crisis passed, Marcus helped with the cleanup and rescue efforts. The medical facility had been badly damaged, but was still operational. Dr. Mitchell and her team continued their work on finding a cure for the crop plague, determined not to let the pirate attack delay their research. "We're close to a breakthrough," Dr. Mitchell told Marcus as they worked together to salvage equipment from the damaged laboratory. "The gene sequencers you delivered are exactly what we needed. We should have a treatment ready within days." Marcus was glad to hear that something positive would come from the day's events. But his mind kept returning to Princess Lyralii and the strange connection he had felt when she touched his thoughts. What she'd seen in his mind that impressed her so much. As evening fell on Valdres Prime, Marcus found himself unable to sleep. He sat outside his temporary quarters, looking up at the stars and thinking about how quickly his life had changed. This morning, he had been a simple supply runner. Now he was apparently connected to Andromedan royalty in ways he didn't understand. The crystal device suddenly flared with bright light. Marcus picked it up and felt the warm, tingling sensation again. Then, somehow, he could hear Princess Lyreliai's voice in his mind. Marcus Chun. Her telepathic voice was clear and musical, just as her spoken voice had been. "Can you hear me?" "Yes." Marcus thought back, hoping she could sense his response. "Good. I am recovering well, thanks to your bravery. But there are things we must discuss that cannot wait." My telepathic scan of her mind revealed something extraordinary, something that my advisors believe could be crucial to the future of our empire. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "What did you see?" "Potential," the princess replied. "Incredible, untapped potential that exists in human minds, but has never been properly developed. Marcus, I believe you may be the key to unlocking abilities in humanity that could change the balance of power in the galaxy." The crystal device grew brighter, and Marcus felt as if the princess was somehow present with him despite being light years away. "I am returning to the Andromedan homeworld," Princess Lyrelii continued. "My father, the Emperor, must be informed of what I have discovered. You have a choice, Marcus Chun. You can return to your normal life and forget this ever happened, or you can come with me and help us understand what makes human mind so unique." Marcus stared up at the stars, realizing that the princess was offering him something beyond his wildest dreams. The chance to travel to the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, to be part of something that could affect the future of humanity itself. "What would I have to do?" he asked. "Submit to more detailed telepathic scans," the princess explained. "Allow our scientists to study your mind and map the neural pathways that give you these abilities. Help us understand how human consciousness differs from other species in the galaxy." It sounded like something from a science fiction story. But then Marcus reflected his entire day had felt like science fiction. He had saved a princess, fought pirates, and discovered that his mind apparently held secrets that could influence galactic politics. "Will I be safe?" Marcus asked. "You will be under my personal protection," Princess Lyrelii assured him. "No harm will come to you while you are a guest to the Andromedan Empire. And, Marcus, I want you to know, what you did today will not be forgotten. Your willingness to risk your life for others, regardless of species or social status, represents the very best of humanity." Marcus made his decision. His life as a supply runner had been satisfying, but limited. This was a chance to be part of something bigger, to help his species in ways he never could have imagined. "When do we leave?" he asked. He could sense the princess's pleasure at his answer. "A ship will arrive for you tomorrow. Pack lightly. Anything you need can be provided on Andromeda Prime. And, Marcus, thank you again for saving my life. I hope that in time, your sacrifice will be remembered as the moment that changed everything for humanity." The crystal device dimmed, and Marcus was alone again under the alien stars. But now he felt a sense of anticipation rather than uncertainty. Tomorrow would begin a new chapter in his life, one that might determine the future of the entire human race. As he finally headed inside to get some sleep, Marcus wondered what his partner Kex would say when he found out. A simple medical supply run had turned into the adventure of a lifetime. And somehow, Marcus suspected that this was only the beginning. The Andromedan ship that arrived the next morning was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. It seemed to be made of living metal that shifted colors in the sunlight, flowing from silver to gold to deep blue. The ship's design was organic rather than mechanical, with curves and spirals that reminded Marcus of seashells or flower petals. "Beautiful, isn't it?" said the ship's captain, a tall Andromedan with the typical silver hair and pale skin. Her name was Commander Zalaria, and she greeted Marcus with formal politeness. "This is a personal yacht belonging to Princess Lyrelii. She wanted to ensure your journey to our homeworld would be comfortable." Marcus boarded the ship with a single bag of belongings, feeling overwhelmed by the luxury around him. The interior was just as remarkable as the exterior, with walls that seemed to glow with their own inner light and furniture that adjusted automatically to his body when he sat down. Everything was smooth and organic, as if the entire ship had grown rather than been built. The princess sends her regrets that she cannot join us. Commander Zalaria explained as they prepared for departure. She is already on Andromeda Prime, preparing for your arrival. The journey will take 3 days through hyperspace. As the ship lifted off from Valdris Prime, Marcus watched the planet shrink below them until it was just a point of light among the stars. He was leaving behind the only life he had ever known, venturing into the unknown because of a split-second decision to protect someone in danger. The ship's common area had large windows that showed the swirling colors of hyperspace as they traveled. Marcus spent hours watching the cosmic storm outside, mesmerized by patterns of energy that human science barely understood. Commander Zalaria joined him occasionally, sharing stories about Andromedan exploration and their ancient history. Our people have traveled the stars for over 50,000 years, she told him. We have seen civilizations rise and fall, watched species discover faster-than-light travel, and spread across the galaxy. But in all that time, we have never encountered a species quite like humanity. What makes humans so different? Marcus asked. Commander Zalaria considered the question carefully. Most species develop either physical abilities or mental abilities as they evolve. The Catharians become incredibly strong and resilient. The Zephyrians develop multiple limbs and enhanced reflexes. The Andromedans, as you know, develop telepathy and extended lifespans. She paused to pour herself a cup of something that steamed and changed colors. But humans seem to have taken a different path. You have moderate physical abilities and limited mental powers, but you have something else, an adaptability and creativity that we find fascinating. Marcus thought about this as he watched hyperspace swirl past the windows. Are you saying we're special because we're average? Not average, Commander Zalaria corrected. Balanced. Most species excel in one area at the expense of others. Humans seem to maintain potential in multiple areas simultaneously. Princess Lyralii believes this gives your minds a flexibility that other species lack. The conversation was interrupted by an alert from the ship's navigation system. Commander Zalaria checked her instruments and frowned. We're being followed, she announced. 3 ships dropped out of hyperspace behind us and are matching our course. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. Pirates. Possibly. Or worse. Commander Zalaria activated the ship's defensive systems. The princess has many enemies among the more militant factions in the galaxy. Some would see her research into human potential as a threat to the established order. The pursuing ships began gaining on them, their more powerful engines allowing them to close the distance rapidly. Marcus could see them on the ship's sensors, sleek, aggressive designs that looked nothing like the elegant Andromedan vessels he had seen. Can we outrun them? Marcus asked. Not in this ship, Commander Zalaria replied grimly. This was designed for comfort, not speed. We'll have to fight. The ship shuddered as energy weapons struck its shields. Warning lights flashed throughout the cabin as the defensive systems strained to absorb the impact. Marcus was thrown against a wall as the ship maneuvered to avoid another barrage. Who are they? Marcus called over the noise of the alert klaxons. Commander Zalaria worked frantically at her controls, trying to return fire while maintaining their shields. The Dominion Collective. They're a faction that believes certain species are inherently superior to others. They see the princess's research as a threat to their ideology. More weapons fire rocked the ship. Through the windows, Marcus could see the attacking vessels, dark, angular ships with weapons systems that glowed red in the void. They moved with predatory grace, trying to disable the Andromedan yacht without destroying it completely. They want us alive, Commander Zalaria realized. They're trying to capture us, not kill us. That didn't make Marcus feel any better. He had heard stories about what the Dominion Collective did to prisoners, especially those they considered inferior species. Being captured might be worse than dying in battle. The ship's weapons systems finally came online, and Commander Zalaria began returning fire. The yacht's defensive capabilities were limited, but its weapons were surprisingly effective. Beams of golden energy lanced out toward the attacking ships, forcing them to break off their attack runs. This ship has more bite than it appears, Marcus observed. Never underestimate Andromedan technology, Commander Zalaria replied with a tight smile. But we can't win a prolonged battle. I'm sending a distress signal to the nearest military outpost. The battle continued for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. The yacht's shields held against repeated attacks, but Marcus could see they were weakening. The Dominion ships worked together with military precision, taking turns attacking while the others recharged their weapons. Then, something unexpected happened. New contacts appeared on the sensors, an entire squadron of ships dropping out of hyperspace directly between the yacht and its attackers. Marcus recognized the distinctive design of human military vessels, their angular shapes, and practical construction a stark contrast to the flowing lines of Andromedan ships. "This is Admiral Sarah Park of the Earth Defense Force." A voice crackled over the communication system. "Dominion vessels, you are in violation of the Galactic Accords. Break off your attack immediately or face the consequences." The Dominion ships hesitated for a moment, clearly not expecting human military intervention. Then, their commander responded with typical arrogance. "This is Dominion Warleader Cracks. We are pursuing terrorists and traitors to galactic order. Stand aside, primitives, or share their fate." Admiral Park's response was swift and decisive. "All ships, engage hostile targets. Show them what Earth's primitives can do." The space battle that followed was spectacular and terrifying. Human ships might not have had the advanced technology of other species, but they more than made up for it with tactics and determination. They used coordinated attacks and clever maneuvers to overcome their technological disadvantages. Marcus watched in amazement as human pilots performed impossible-seeming maneuvers, using their ship's momentum and the gravitational fields of nearby planets to gain advantages over their enemies. It was like watching a deadly dance performed at relativistic speeds. "Remarkable," Commander Zalaria breathed. "Human military doctrine emphasizes creativity over raw power. Your pilots are thinking of tactics that our computer models never predicted." One by one, the Dominion ships found themselves outmaneuvered and outfought. The human squadron worked together like a pack of wolves, isolating individual targets and overwhelming them with concentrated fire. Within an hour, 2 of the attacking ships had been disabled, and the third was in full retreat. Admiral Park's ship approached the yacht and established a communication link. The Admiral herself appeared on the main screen, a woman in her 50s with graying hair and intelligent eyes that missed nothing. "Commander Zalaria, I presume," Admiral Park said. "We received your distress call and came as quickly as possible. Is your passenger unharmed?" "Marcus Chun is safe," Commander Zalaria confirmed. "But how did you know about him?" Admiral Park smiled slightly. "Word travels fast when a human saves an Andromedan princess. Earth's government has been very interested in Mr. Chen's situation. We wanted to make sure he reached his destination safely." Marcus spoke up. "Admiral, I appreciate the rescue, but I'm traveling voluntarily. The princess invited me to visit Andromeda Prime." "So we understand," Admiral Park replied. "And Earth fully supports your decision. Whatever research the Andromedans want to conduct could benefit all of humanity. Just know that you have the full backing of your home planet." After the human squadron departed, the journey to Andromeda Prime continued without further incident. Marcus found himself thinking about the battle and what it represented. Humans might be newcomers to galactic civilization, but they were already making an impact through their unique approaches to problems. "Your people impressed my crew today," Commander Zalaria told him. "The tactical innovations they displayed were unlike anything in our databases. It confirms what Princess Lyralii believes about human potential." Marcus was beginning to understand why his simple act of protecting the princess had led to such significant attention. It wasn't just about one human helping one Andromedan. It was about what that action revealed about human nature and capabilities. 2 days later, they finally arrived at Andromeda Prime. Marcus's first view of the Andromedan homeworld left him speechless. The planet was a work of art on a planetary scale, with cities that spiraled gracefully across the landscape like living organisms. Towers reached toward the sky in elegant curves, connected by bridges that seemed to float without support. The ship descended through an atmosphere that sparkled with energy fields and floating structures. Marcus could see parks and gardens integrated seamlessly with the urban areas, creating a harmony between nature and technology that human civilization had never achieved. "Welcome to Andromeda Prime," Commander Zalaria said proudly. "Home to 12 billion Andromedans and the cultural center of our empire." The spaceport where they landed was itself a marvel of engineering, with ships arriving and departing through what appeared to be portals in space. The yacht settled onto a platform that rose from the ground to meet them, adjusting perfectly to their ship's configuration. Princess Lyralii was waiting for them, surrounded by an entourage of guards and advisors. She looked fully recovered from her ordeal on Valdris Prime, her silver hair catching the light from the planet's twin suns. When she saw Marcus, her face lit up with a genuine smile. "Marcus Chun," she said, approaching him with hands extended in the traditional Andromedan greeting. "Welcome to my world. I hope your journey was not too eventful." "We had some trouble with Dominion forces," Marcus replied, taking her hands. Again, he felt that strange tingling sensation, as if her touch was somehow connecting their minds. The princess's expression darkened. The Dominion grows bolder. They see any cooperation between species as a threat to their supremacist ideology. Your very presence here challenges their belief that some species are inherently superior to others. She led Marcus and the entourage toward a transport that hovered silently above the platform. Like everything else Marcus had seen, it combined functionality with artistic beauty. The vehicle's interior was spacious and comfortable, with windows that provided panoramic views of the city as they traveled. "Where are we going?" Marcus asked as the transport lifted off. "The Palace of Contemplation," Princess Lyralii replied. "It's where our most important research is conducted. My father, Emperor Valerian, is eager to meet you. He has heard about your actions on Valdris Prime and wants to understand what makes humans so unique." The palace was built into the side of a mountain, its structure flowing organically from the natural rock formations. Spires and towers reached toward the sky, while gardens and terraces created cascading levels of beauty. It was like nothing from Earth's architecture, more grown than built, shaped by minds that thought in terms of millennia rather than decades. Inside, the palace was even more impressive. Corridors opened into vast chambers with ceilings that seemed to extend infinitely upward. Art and technology blended seamlessly, with sculptures that moved and changed as Marcus watched, responding to his presence in ways he couldn't understand. Emperor Valerian was waiting in a chamber that overlooked the entire city. He was tall even by Andromedan standards, with silver hair that had taken on an almost white coloration. His violet eyes held depths of wisdom that spoke of centuries of experience. "So," the emperor said, studying Marcus carefully, "you are the human who saved my daughter's life." Marcus felt nervous, but tried to hide it. "I just did what anyone would do, Your Majesty." Emperor Valerian smiled slightly. "Please, call me Valerian." "And no, you did not do what anyone would do. You did what few beings in the galaxy would do. You risked your life for someone you had never met, expecting nothing in return. That is not common behavior among most species." The emperor gestured for Marcus to sit in a chair that adjusted itself to his body. Princess Lyralii took a seat nearby, while guards and advisors positioned themselves around the chamber. "My daughter believes that humans possess mental capabilities that your species has not yet learned to access," Emperor Valerian continued. "She conducted a preliminary telepathic scan of your mind and found neural pathways that she had never seen before. We would like to study these pathways more carefully, if you are willing." Marcus looked at Princess Lyralii, who nodded encouragingly. "What exactly would this study involve?" "Non-invasive telepathic mapping," the princess explained. I would use my abilities to trace the structure of your consciousness, identifying the unique aspects that make human minds different from those of other species. The process is completely safe, though it can be mentally exhausting. And what do you hope to learn? Marcus asked. Emperor Valerian leaned forward. We believe that humans may possess latent telepathic abilities that could be awakened with proper training. If this is true, it could revolutionize how your species interacts with the galaxy. Telepathic communication, enhanced problem-solving capabilities, even limited precognitive abilities. All of these might be within human reach. Marcus felt a chill of excitement. The idea that humanity might have hidden potential was both thrilling and frightening. What would this mean for Earth and human civilization? It would change everything, Princess Lyralii said softly. A telepathic species cannot easily be enslaved or deceived. They develop rapid technological advancement through shared consciousness. They become major players in galactic politics almost overnight. But it could also make humanity a target, Emperor Valerian added soberly. The Dominion Collective already sees your species as a threat. Proof that humans have significant mental potential would confirm their fears and likely trigger a more aggressive response. Marcus thought about this as he looked out over the beautiful Andromedan city. Everything seemed so peaceful here, so advanced and harmonious. But he was beginning to understand that the galaxy was a dangerous place where species competed for resources and influence. If you do discover these abilities in humans, Marcus said, what happens next? We would need to find a way to safely awaken them in your people, Princess Lyralii explained. It cannot be done quickly or carelessly. Telepathic abilities that develop too rapidly can damage or destroy a mind that isn't properly prepared. How long would it take? Marcus asked. Generations, Emperor Valerian replied. Perhaps centuries. The process would have to be gradual, starting with a few individuals and slowly expanding to larger populations. It would be the work of lifetimes. Marcus realized the magnitude of what they were discussing. This wasn't just about him or even his generation. It was about the long-term future of humanity itself. The decisions made in this room could affect billions of people who hadn't even been born yet. I need to think about this, Marcus said finally. Of course, Princess Lyralii said gently. This is not a decision to be made lightly. Take all the time you need. In the meantime, you are our honored guest. Explore the city, meet our people, learn about our culture. Understanding our society might help you understand what your own species could become. Guards escorted Marcus to quarters that were larger and more luxurious than any place he had ever stayed. The rooms seemed to anticipate his needs, adjusting lighting and temperature automatically. Windows provided breathtaking views of the city and the landscape beyond. That evening, Marcus dined with Princess Lyralii and several Andromedan scholars. The conversation ranged across topics from galactic history to theoretical physics, and Marcus was amazed by the depth of knowledge these beings possessed. They had witnessed the rise and fall of entire civilizations, accumulated wisdom across millennia of existence. Tell me about Earth, Princess Lyralii requested. I have read reports, but I want to understand your world through your eyes. Marcus described his home planet, the blue oceans, the diverse climates, the billions of humans working together despite their differences. He talked about human music and art, the drive to explore and discover, the way his species had gone from primitive hunters to space travelers in just a few thousand years. Remarkable, one of the scholars commented. Most species take hundreds of thousands of years to achieve interstellar travel. Humans accomplished it in a tiny fraction of that time. Perhaps that rapid development is connected to your mental capabilities, Princess Lyralii suggested. The same neural flexibility that allows telepathic potential might also drive rapid innovation and adaptation. As the evening continued, Marcus began to understand just how different Andromedans were from humans. They thought in terms of geological time, planning projects that might take millennia to complete. They had developed beyond the need for material possessions or personal ambition, focusing instead on knowledge and the betterment of all consciousness in the galaxy. But they were also somewhat removed from the immediate concerns that drove human behavior. They had solved problems like poverty, disease, and resource scarcity so long ago that they barely remembered what those issues felt like. In some ways, Marcus realized humans might have insights that Andromedans had forgotten. Later that night, as Marcus stood on his balcony looking out over the glittering city, Princess Lyralii joined him. She moved with a graceful, almost floating gait typical of her species. "Having second thoughts?" she asked gently. "Not second thoughts exactly," Marcus replied. "But I'm beginning to understand the complexity of what you're proposing. This isn't just about discovering human potential. It's about changing the fundamental nature of my species." Princess Lyralii nodded. "That is why the decision must be yours. I could force a telepathic scan, but the results would be meaningless without your willing participation. The mind must be open for us to truly understand it." They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching the lights of the city pulse and shift in patterns that seemed almost musical. Finally, Marcus spoke. "If humans do have these abilities, and if they can be awakened safely, what would that mean for relationships between species? Would we still be considered lesser?" "No species with confirmed telepathic abilities has ever been considered lesser," Princess Lyralii replied. "Telepathy is seen as one of the markers of true civilization. It would elevate humanity's status considerably. And if the Dominion tries to prevent this awakening," Princess Lyralii's expression hardened, "then they would face not just humanity, but every species that opposes their supremacist ideology. The galaxy has grown tired of their aggression. Proof that humans possess advanced potential might be the catalyst needed to finally confront them." Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. A simple act of heroism had led to this moment, where his decision could affect the future of his entire species. It was both overwhelming and humbling. "I'll do it," he said quietly. "I'll submit to the telepathic scan. If there's even a chance that this could help humanity reach its full potential, I have to try." Princess Lyralii smiled, and Marcus felt that familiar tingling sensation as she briefly touched his mind. "I'd hoped you would say that. Tomorrow, we begin the most important research project in recent galactic history. Whatever we discover, Marcus Chun, your name will be remembered forever." As they prepared to return inside, Marcus caught sight of something troubling in the distance. Dark shapes were moving among the clouds, ships without lights, approaching the planet with obvious stealth. Princess Lyralii followed his gaze, and her expression immediately became alert. "Alert the palace guards," she said urgently to an unseen communication system. "We have uninvited guests." The peaceful evening was about to become much more complicated. Marcus's decision to help unlock humanity's potential had apparently not gone unnoticed by those who preferred humanity to remain as it was. The battle for humanity's future was about to begin, and Marcus found himself at the center of it. All the palace's defense systems activated automatically as the unidentified ships approached. Energy shields flickered to life around the mountain complex, while automated weapons emerged from hidden positions. Marcus watched in fascination as the entire structure transformed from a work of art into a fortress, maintaining its beauty while clearly preparing for battle. Who would be bold enough to attack the Imperial Palace? Marcus asked as alarms began sounding throughout the building. Princess Lyralii's expression was grim. The Dominion Collective, most likely. They must have decided that preventing human telepathic development is worth risking war with the Andromedan Empire. Emperor Valerian appeared on the balcony, moving with surprising speed for someone who appeared so ancient. His violet eyes blazed with anger as he surveyed the approaching threat. 30 ships, he announced after checking a handheld device. Dominion heavy cruisers with stealth modifications. They must have been planning this attack for weeks. Can the palace defenses hold them off? Marcus asked. For a time, the emperor replied, but not indefinitely. These defenses were designed to repel casual attacks, not a full military assault. We need to get you to safety, Marcus. If the Dominion captures you, they will either kill you or use you for propaganda purposes. Princess Lyralii shook her head. Father, the telepathic scan must proceed. If we wait, there may not be another opportunity. The Dominion will never stop hunting Marcus as long as they fear what he represents. Marcus found himself caught between competing urgencies. He could see the wisdom in both perspectives, but time was running out. The attacking ships had begun their bombardment, their weapons creating brilliant flashes against the palace's energy shields. How long would the scan take? He asked. In ideal conditions, several hours, Princess Lyralii replied. But I might be able to conduct an abbreviated version in perhaps 30 minutes. It would not provide complete data, but it could confirm whether humans possess the neural structures we suspect. Emperor Valerian considered this while explosions rocked the palace around them. The main laboratory is too exposed. We would need to use the emergency facility deep in the mountain. It is better protected but has less sophisticated equipment. Then, that's what we'll do, Marcus decided. If this research is important enough for the Dominion to risk a war, then it's important enough to complete under fire. They rushed through corridors that were now filled with palace guards preparing defensive positions. Marcus noticed that these guards were different from those he had seen before, more heavily armed and wearing armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. These were the elite troops that protected the imperial family's most sensitive secrets. The emergency laboratory was located in a chamber carved from solid rock deep within the mountain. Ancient Andromedan symbols covered the walls, and Marcus could feel a strange energy in the air that made his skin tingle. This place had been used for important research for thousands of years. The neural patterns here will interfere with telepathic scanning, Princess Lyralii explained as technicians activated equipment that looked both ancient and impossibly advanced. But they will also shield us from outside detection. The Dominion will not be able to locate us while we work. Marcus positioned himself in the center of a circular platform while the princess prepared her telepathic abilities. He could see her concentrating, her violet eyes beginning to glow with internal light. The tingling sensation he had felt before was now stronger, as if electricity was dancing across his skin. Try to keep your mind as open and relaxed as possible, Princess Lyralii instructed. I will be examining your neural pathways in detail. You may experience strange sensations or even temporary memories that are not your own. Do not be alarmed. This is normal. The scan began, and Marcus immediately felt as if someone was gently exploring every thought he had ever had. Princess Lyralii's consciousness moved through his mind like water, touching memories and experiences with delicate precision. But there was something else, a sensation of discovery, as if she was finding things that surprised even her. Above them, the battle for the palace continued. Marcus could feel the vibrations of weapons' impacts even through the solid rock. The Dominion fleet was pressing their attack with determination that suggested they viewed this as their last chance to prevent human development. Remarkable, Princess Lyralii whispered, her voice seeming to come from inside Marcus's head. The neural structures are even more complex than I theorized. There are pathways here that exist in no other species we have studied. Marcus tried to remain still as images flashed through his mind. Scenes from his childhood, memories of his work as a supply runner, but also things he had never experienced. He saw alien worlds through eyes that were not his own, felt emotions that belonged to other beings, witnessed events from across the galaxy. Those are my memories, Princess Lyralii explained, sensing his confusion. When telepathic minds connect this deeply, some bleeding of experiences is inevitable. You are seeing fragments of my life, just as I am experiencing yours. Through her memories, Marcus saw the princess as a child, learning about the responsibilities of leadership. He experienced her first attempts at telepathic communication, felt her determination to use her abilities to help others regardless of their species. He understood, in a way that words could never convey, why she was so committed to helping humanity develop its potential. But he also sensed something else in her mind: fear. Not of the current battle, but of what the research might reveal. There was a possibility, small but real, that human telepathic development could go wrong. Some species had destroyed themselves when they gained mental abilities too quickly, their minds unable to handle the increased awareness. The risk is acceptable, Marcus said, somehow knowing her thoughts. Humanity needs to take this step, whatever the consequences. Princess Lyreliai's response came as both thought and emotion. She was amazed by his willingness to accept personal risk for the benefit of his species, but she was also concerned about the burden such responsibility placed on him. The telepathic scan continued, revealing layer after layer of neural complexity. Human brains, Marcus learned, were like computers that had been designed to run multiple operating systems simultaneously. Most species developed specialized mental abilities, but humans had maintained broad-spectrum potential that could be trained in many different directions. "This is extraordinary," Princess Lyreliai breathed, her excitement evident even through the telepathic link. Humans are not just potentially telepathic. They have the foundation for almost every known form of mental ability. Precognition, psychokinesis, enhanced pattern recognition, even temporal perception manipulation. The potential is dormant, but it is definitely there. Marcus felt a surge of pride in his species, followed immediately by concern about what this revelation would mean. If humans truly had such extensive potential, every advanced species in the galaxy would want to either ally with them or eliminate them as a threat. The scan was interrupted by a massive explosion that shook the entire mountain. Emergency lighting activated as the main power systems fluctuated, and Marcus could hear the sound of weapons fire growing closer. "They've breached the outer defenses," Emperor Valerian announced, entering the laboratory with several guards. "The scan must be completed quickly." Princess Lyreliai intensified her efforts, pushing deeper into Marcus's mind than she had attempted before. The sensation was overwhelming. Marcus felt as if his consciousness was expanding beyond his physical body, touching something vast and interconnected that existed just beyond normal perception. "There," the princess gasped. "I can see it now. The neural pathways that would allow telepathic development. They are not just present. They're already beginning to activate in response to our connection. Marcus, your mind is adapting to telepathic contact in real time." Marcus suddenly realized he could sense the emotions of everyone in the laboratory. Emperor Valerian's determination mixed with ancient wisdom. The guards' focused alertness overlaid with genuine concern for their charges. The technician's excitement about the research balanced against fear of the approaching battle. But most clearly, he could feel Princess Lyreliai's mind, brilliant, compassionate, and utterly dedicated to the welfare of all conscious beings. He understood that her interest in human development was not political or strategic, but arose from a genuine belief that every species deserved the chance to reach its full potential. "The connection is stabilizing," Princess Lyreliai reported to her father. "Marcus is developing basic telepathic reception much faster than our models predicted. At this rate, he could achieve full telepathic communication within days rather than years. Then, we need to protect him at all costs," Emperor Valerian replied. "If the Dominion realizes what we have discovered, they will stop at nothing to prevent this information from reaching Earth." The laboratory's security doors suddenly sealed as proximity alarms indicated that hostile forces had reached their level of the mountain complex. Through the telepathic link, Marcus could feel Princess Lyreliai's fear, not for herself, but for what would happen to humanity if the research data was lost. "Can you complete the scan?" Marcus asked urgently. "I need just a few more minutes," Princess Lyreliai replied. "But the Dominion forces will break through before then." Marcus made another split-second decision that would have far-reaching consequences. Instead of waiting passively, he reached out with his newly awakened telepathic abilities, trying to touch the minds of the attacking soldiers beyond the sealed doors. What he found shocked him. The Dominion troops were not just following orders. They genuinely believed that preventing human development was necessary for galactic stability. In their minds, telepathic humans would inevitably become conquerors, using their mental abilities to subjugate other species. They're afraid, Marcus reported to the others. The Dominion isn't attacking out of malice, but out of genuine fear that telepathic humans will become a threat to everyone else. Princess Lyraliai's thoughts touched his mind with surprise and admiration. You are reading hostile minds from a significant distance through solid rock barriers. Your abilities are developing far beyond what we thought possible. But the telepathic contact with the Dominion soldiers had an unexpected side effect. Some of them began to sense Marcus's mental presence, and their fear intensified dramatically. Several troops panicked and began firing wildly, while others reported the presence of an active telepath to their commanders. They know about you now, Emperor Valerian said grimly. The entire Dominion fleet will focus their efforts on this location. The sealed doors began to buckle under concentrated weapons fire. Whatever alloys the Andromedans used in their construction, Dominion military technology was proving capable of breaching them. Marcus could hear the whine of energy weapons and the heavy footsteps of soldiers in powered armor approaching their position. The scan is complete, Princess Lyraliai announced suddenly. I have all the data we need to prove human telepathic potential. Now, we must ensure this information reaches Earth safely. She touched a crystal device similar to the one she had used to contact Marcus on Valders Prime, but larger and more complex. I am transmitting the complete scan data to every major Andromedan research facility in the galaxy. Even if we do not survive, the information will be preserved. We're going to survive, Marcus said with more confidence than he felt. Through his developing telepathic abilities, he was becoming aware of the full scope of the battle raging throughout the palace complex. Thousands of Andromedan defenders were engaged in fierce combat with Dominion assault forces, fighting for control of corridors and chambers throughout the mountain. But Marcus was also sensing something else, other minds approaching their location. Not Dominion soldiers, but familiar patterns he recognized from recent memory. Human forces are in the palace, he announced with surprise. Admiral Park's ships must have followed us to Andromeda Prime. Impossible, Empereur Valerian replied. No one knew of this research except my inner circle. Unless, Princess Lyraliai said thoughtfully, Earth's government has been monitoring the situation more closely than we realized. They may have their own intelligence networks that detected the Dominion fleet's movements. The laboratory doors finally gave way, and Dominion soldiers in black armor poured into the chamber. Their weapons were trained on everyone present, but Marcus noticed they seemed reluctant to fire. Whatever their orders, they apparently wanted prisoners rather than corpses. Stand down, the lead soldier commanded in heavily accented Galactic standard. You are all under arrest for crimes against galactic stability and the natural order. Emperor Valerian stepped forward with regal dignity. You dare to arrest the sovereign ruler of the Andromedan Empire in his own palace? This is an act of war that will have consequences beyond your ability to comprehend. The old order is ending, the soldier replied. The Dominion Council has decreed that dangerous research must be stopped before it destabilizes the galaxy. The human will come with us for interrogation and disposal. Marcus felt anger rising within him. Not just his own emotions, but reflected feelings from Princess Lyraliai and even some of the Dominion soldiers who were uncomfortable with their orders. His developing telepathic abilities were picking up the emotional resonance of everyone around him, creating a feedback loop that amplified his own responses. That amplification had unexpected consequences. Marcus's anger touched the minds of the Dominion soldiers, and several of them suddenly found themselves questioning their orders. Why were they threatening peaceful researchers? What gave them the right to determine which species could develop and which could not. "Stop that," the lead soldier ordered, somehow sensing what Marcus was doing. "Mental manipulation is forbidden under Dominion law." "I'm not manipulating anyone," Marcus replied. "I'm just sharing emotions. If your soldiers don't like what they're feeling, maybe they should examine their own actions." The telepathic sharing intensified as Marcus's abilities continued to develop under stress. Now everyone in the laboratory could sense each other's thoughts and emotions to some degree. The Dominion soldiers experienced the genuine compassion that motivated the Andromedan research, while the Andromedans felt the fear that drove Dominion aggression. Princess Lyralii realized what was happening and added her own telepathic abilities to the mix. The mental sharing spread beyond the laboratory, touching other minds throughout the palace complex. Suddenly, soldiers on both sides could feel what their enemies were feeling, understand their motivations and fears. The effect was dramatic. Fighting began to slow as combatants found it difficult to kill beings whose thoughts and emotions they could sense directly. Fear and anger remained, but they were balanced by understanding and empathy that made violence feel increasingly wrong. "What have you done?" the Dominion commander demanded, his mental shields straining against the telepathic field that Marcus and Princess Lyralii had created together. "We have shown everyone the truth," Princess Lyralii replied. "Telepathy does not make a species more dangerous. It makes them more compassionate. When you can feel another being's pain, it becomes almost impossible to cause unnecessary suffering." But not all of the Dominion forces were affected by the telepathic sharing. Those with strong mental shields or cybernetic enhancements continued their attack, determined to complete their mission regardless of the emotional cost. The laboratory's protective systems finally activated, creating a barrier of energy that the Dominion weapons could not immediately penetrate. But Marcus could sense that the protection would not last long against concentrated assault. "We need to evacuate," Emperor Valerian announced. "There are emergency transport systems that can take us to safer locations." "No," Marcus said firmly. "If we run now, the Dominion will claim that we are hiding something dangerous. We need to prove that human telepathic development is beneficial, not threatening." Through the palace-wide telepathic field, Marcus reached out to every mind he could touch: Andromedan defenders, Dominion attackers, and the human forces that were now fighting their way through the complex. He shared his memories of why he had chosen to help with the research, his hope that humanity could use mental abilities to become better rather than more dangerous. The response was overwhelming. Minds throughout the palace began to resonate with Marcus's genuine desire to help others, regardless of species or political affiliation. Even some of the Dominion soldiers found themselves questioning their orders when faced with such sincere altruism. But the telepathic sharing also revealed something troubling. Among the Dominion forces were individuals whose minds were filled with such hate and fear that they could not be reached by empathy. These beings had convinced themselves that all other species were inherently inferior and dangerous, and they would rather see the galaxy burned than allow that worldview to be challenged. Some of them cannot be reasoned with. Princess Lyralii warned Marcus through their mental link. Their hatred runs too deep for telepathic connection to overcome. "Then, we have to be ready to defend ourselves," Marcus replied. Through the expanding telepathic field, he was becoming aware of combat capabilities he had never realized he possessed. His mind was connecting to the palace's defensive systems, learning to control energy weapons and protective barriers through direct mental interface. Emperor Valerian noticed Marcus's growing integration with the palace systems and looked alarmed. "That should not be possible. Our technology requires years of training to operate safely through telepathic interface. Human neural architecture is more adaptable than we realized," Princess Lyralii explained, her own amazement evident through their mental connection. "Marcus is learning to use our systems faster than our own children do." The implications were staggering. If humans could adapt to alien technology so quickly, they would not just become telepathic, they would become the most technologically versatile species in the galaxy. That potential would either make them invaluable allies or terrifying enemies, depending on how they chose to use their abilities. The energy barrier protecting the laboratory finally failed under sustained Dominion assault. But instead of finding helpless prisoners, the attacking soldiers faced something unprecedented, a human who had integrated himself with Andromedan defense systems and could control them with his mind. Energy weapons emerged from hidden positions and began firing with precision that no organic gunner could match. Force fields activated and deactivated in perfect coordination to protect the laboratory's occupants while allowing counterattacks. Marcus had become a living extension of the palace's defensive capabilities. Impossible, the Dominion commander breathed, his weapons useless against defenses that anticipated his every move. No one can master our technology so quickly. You are learning what we learned, Princess Lyralii told him. Humans do not just have telepathic potential. They have the ability to interface directly with advanced technology in ways that no other species can achieve. This is not a threat to galactic stability. It is the next step in galactic evolution. But even as Marcus demonstrated abilities that amazed everyone present, he was careful to use them defensively rather than aggressively. The weapons under his control stunned rather than killed, and the force fields protected rather than trapped. He was determined to prove that power could be used responsibly. Through the telepathic field, every mind in the palace could feel Marcus's restraint and wisdom. Here was a being with godlike technological capabilities who chose to use them only to protect others. The example was more powerful than any argument could have been. One by one, Dominion soldiers began lowering their weapons. Not all of them. Some are too committed to their cause or too protected by mental shields to be affected. But enough laid down their arms that the balance of the battle began to shift. This changes everything, Emperor Valerian said quietly. If humans can develop both telepathic abilities and technological integration at this rate, they will reshape galactic civilization within a generation. Through the expanding mental network, Marcus could feel the excitement and fear that this revelation was generating among every species represented in the palace. The future that everyone had been imagining, humans as another telepathic species among many, was no longer the most likely outcome. Instead, humanity appeared destined to become something unprecedented in galactic history, a species that combined telepathic abilities with unparalleled technological versatility. The question that every mind in the network was asking was the same. Would humans use these capabilities wisely, or would they become the galactic tyrants that the Dominion feared? Marcus knew that the answer to that question would determine not just the future of humanity, but the future of every intelligent species in the galaxy. And somehow, the responsibility for proving humanity's wisdom had fallen to him. The telepathic field that Marcus and Princess Lyralii had created continued to expand throughout the palace complex, touching thousands of minds and revealing thoughts and emotions that had previously been hidden. The effect was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. Beings from dozens of different species suddenly found themselves sharing a collective consciousness that transcended the normal boundaries of individual minds. Through this network, Marcus became aware of the broader battle taking place around them. Human forces had indeed followed the Dominion fleet to Andromeda Prime, but they were severely outnumbered. Admiral Park's squadron was fighting desperately to prevent the planet from being overrun, while smaller teams of human soldiers worked their way through the palace to reach the research laboratory. What surprised Marcus most was the diversity of the human force. These were not just Earth military personnel, but volunteers from human colonies across the galaxy. Merchants, miners, farmers, and scientists had all taken up arms to protect him and the research he represented. Through the telepathic field, he could feel their determination and their fear, not for their own lives, but for the future of humanity. They came because of you, Princess Lyralii said, her thoughts touching his mind with wonder. When word spread that a human had saved my life and was participating in crucial research, your entire species rallied to ensure your protection. Marcus felt humbled by the sacrifice these people were making on his behalf. But he also realized that they were fighting for something much larger than one person. They were fighting for the right of humanity to reach its full potential, whatever that might be. The Dominion commander in the laboratory was receiving reports through his communication system, and Marcus could sense his growing frustration through the telepathic network. The planned quick strike to capture or kill Marcus had turned into a major battle that was attracting attention from across the galaxy. Multiple species are sending ships to this system, the commander reported to his superiors. The Zephyrians, the Crystalline Collective, even the Voidwalkers are demanding to know what is happening here. Emperor Valerian smiled grimly. You have created exactly the situation you wish to avoid. By attacking us so openly, you have drawn galactic attention to our research. Now, every major power will want to understand what makes humans so important. Through the telepathic field, Marcus could sense the thoughts of beings throughout the galaxy as news of the battle spread. Some were curious about human potential, others were frightened by it, and still others saw opportunities for alliance or exploitation. The galaxy was already beginning to divide into factions based on how they viewed humanity's future development. But there was something else in the collective consciousness that Marcus found encouraging. Despite their fears and uncertainties, most species seem to respect the principle that every intelligent race deserved the chance to evolve naturally. The Dominion's attempt to prevent human development by force was seen as a violation of fundamental galactic law. We are receiving communication requests from over 40 different governments, announced one of Emperor Valerian's advisors, who had been monitoring galactic communications. They all want to know about the research and its implications. Then, we will show them, Marcus decided. If the galaxy wants to understand human potential, let them see it directly. Using his growing connection to the palace's communication systems, Marcus began broadcasting the telepathic field beyond Andromeda Prime. It was an unprecedented use of technology and mental ability combined, requiring him to interface with quantum transmission arrays that could reach across interstellar distances. The result was spectacular and terrifying. For the first time in galactic history, beings on hundreds of different worlds found themselves sharing a collective consciousness that included not just their own thoughts, but the thoughts and emotions of thousands of other species simultaneously. The initial reaction was panic as minds struggled to cope with the sudden influx of alien thoughts and feelings. But gradually, as beings learned to filter and process the shared consciousness, something remarkable began to happen. Ancient misunderstandings between species started to dissolve as they experienced each other's perspectives directly. "This is impossible," breathed one of the Dominion soldiers, his mental shields finally overwhelmed by the sheer scope of the telepathic field. One human cannot create a galaxy-wide consciousness network. Not alone, Princess Lyrelii corrected, but humans appear to have a unique ability to serve as focal points for collective consciousness. Marcus is not generating this field by himself. He is facilitating connections between millions of existing telepathic minds. Through the network, Marcus could feel the amazement of telepathic species across the galaxy as they realized what was happening. The Andromedans, the Ethereal Collective, the Mindweavers, all of the naturally telepathic species were finding their abilities amplified and expanded through their connection to the human focal point. It's like he's a natural conductor for telepathic energy, one of the Andromedan researchers observed through the network. Human neural architecture seems designed to coordinate and enhance the mental abilities of other species. The implications were staggering. If humans could serve as focal points for collective consciousness, they would not just become another telepathic species. They would become the species that enabled true galactic unity. Every major decision could be made through shared consciousness, with all affected beings participating directly in the decision-making process. But the power also contained enormous potential for abuse. A human with malicious intent could potentially manipulate the thoughts and emotions of billions of beings simultaneously. The network that Marcus was facilitating could become either the foundation for galactic peace or the ultimate tool of tyranny. Throughout the galaxy, governments and organizations were reaching the same conclusion. Humanity's development could not be stopped, but it also could not be left completely unguided. There would need to be safeguards, training protocols, and ethical frameworks to ensure that human telepathic abilities were used responsibly. The Galactic Council is calling an emergency session, reported another advisor. Representatives from every major species want to establish protocols for human telepathic development. Emperor Valerian looked at Marcus with a mixture of pride and concern. In one day, you have changed the political structure of the entire galaxy. Every species will now need to reconsider their relationships with humanity and with each other. Through the telepathic network, Marcus could feel the truth of that statement. Traditional power structures based on military strength or technological advancement were already becoming obsolete. In a galaxy where thoughts and emotions could be shared directly, leadership would have to be based on wisdom, compassion, and the ability to serve collective needs rather than individual ambitions. The battle in the palace was winding down as more Dominion soldiers laid down their weapons. It was difficult to continue fighting when you could feel the fear and pain of your enemies as clearly as your own. Even the most fanatical soldiers found their resolve weakening when faced with the genuine emotions of those they were attacking. But not all of the Dominion forces were willing to surrender. The most senior officers and ideologically committed troops had retreated to heavily shielded positions where they could maintain their mental isolation. They were preparing for a final assault designed to destroy the laboratory and everyone in it. They're going to try to collapse this section of the mountain. Princess Lyrelii warned, her telepathic abilities allowing her to sense the enemy's intentions through their communication networks. They have placed nuclear charges at key structural points. Marcus reached out through the palace's sensor systems, confirming the princess's assessment. The Dominion forces had positioned enough explosives to bring down the entire research facility, regardless of the cost to their own troops. They were willing to commit suicide to prevent human telepathic development from proceeding. Can we evacuate in time? Emperor Valerian asked. Not all of us, Princess Lyrelii replied. The charges are set to detonate in less than 2 minutes, and the evacuation systems can only handle a few people at a time. Marcus felt the weight of decision settling on him once again. Through the galaxy-wide telepathic network, billions of beings were watching and waiting to see how humanity would respond to this crisis. Would humans sacrifice themselves for others, or would they prioritize their own survival above all else? The answer came without hesitation. Marcus began using his technological interface abilities to take control of the nuclear charges, attempting to disarm them remotely. It was incredibly dangerous. One mistake would trigger an explosion that would kill everyone in the laboratory and destroy crucial research data. But he was not working alone. Through the telepathic network, other minds began offering assistance. Andromedan technicians shared their knowledge of explosive systems, crystalline collective analysts provided computational support, and even some Dominion engineers who had been